Hey, how's it going, guys? Alright, so in this tutorial, we'll learn how to set up AWS credentials for Python development. So this setup is essential for interacting with AWS services using Python, specifically to the Bodo3 library. Now let's dive into the tutorial. So right here I have a Python code snippet to list my S3 buckets. So now if I try to execute the script, and I'm going to get an exception. So if we look at the exception, I'm getting the no credentials error, unable to locate credentials. Now, to set up the credentials in AWS to be able to interact with different AWS services. All right, so right here, let's go into our AWS console. So here I'm going to go into IAM. I'm going to create two users. So here I'm going to click on users. Now for username, I'm going to name the user default1. So this is going to be the default user. So we can see this as the master user. Then I'm going to click on next. And here I'm going to attach the S3 for access policy. So I'm going to check on this item here, next, and create a user. Then I'm going to create another user, assuming that this user is going to have a very limited access to access the S3 bucket information or S3 bucket objects. So I'll name this as default2. And next. And here I'm going to assign the S3, let's do read-only access. And next. And create a user. Now there are two different ways you can authenticate the access. One is using the user directory, and which you can store the credential file in that directory. So whenever you try to authenticate your access or your user account, the Bodo3 library is going to first of all look at that folder first and check the credential file to see if a set of credential is available. And the other method is we can manually provide the credential information. All right, so let me show you the first approach. All right, so right here, I'm on Windows. So on Windows, you want to go under users, followed by your username. And here, let me go up one more level. Under your username directory, you should see the .aws folder. And if you don't see this folder available, then simply just create a folder. Now go into the folder. Now here we're going to create a file. And we're going to name the file credentials. And make sure that you don't provide any extension. Now we need to open the file. So I'm going to open the file with a notepad. And let's see, right here. Now, assuming that you have three different sets of credentials, so it can be linked to different accounts, or different profile can have different types of access to different services. It depends. All right, so I'm going to just simply paste my code snippet. Now here, let's say I have three profiles. One is going to be the default, and it's going to be the master user. So whenever Bodo3 library is going to attempt to authenticate your account, it's going to go into the .aws folder. Then it's going to look at the default profile first. And if it detects this default profile, then it's going to load the access key and the access secret. All right, so I'm going to go into my default1 profile, not profile user, and also open the default2 tab. All right, so right here, we want to create a set of credential. Now here we need to go to the security credentials. We need to create the secret key and secret ID. All right, so under the access keys, we want to create access key. Now choose the use case, and it's going to be local development. And make sure that you check the checkbox and click on next. And create the access key. Now here I'm going to simply copy my access key to here. And the secret key. Send that to the default profile. And I'll do the same thing for default to profile. Now for default to user, I'm going to assign the key to the other profile. Let's assume that default to user is going to be used for UAT. So I'll assign the ID and the key to the UAT profile. And let me delete this one here. That's extra. Now save the file. Now going back to the Python script. Now this time if I run the script, it should be able to execute the script successfully. And that's because when we execute the script, the bodo3.client method is going to look at this folder here, locate the credentials file, and look at the default profile, load the access key and the secret, and use that as the authentication keys. Now, if I want to use a different profile, so as I want to use my UAT profile, in that case, you actually need to create a session first. So from bodo3, let me delete that line here, the session. And this is a session class. Inside the class, we want to specify the profile name. They want to provide the profile name. In this case, it's going to be UAT. I'm going to name the output session. And from the session object, I can reference the client method and create the service client. Now name this as S3 client. And here I can run the list buckets method again, and that should return the same thing. Now, if you're hosting your program or your application on S3 Cloud or any cloud service, and they need to manually provide the client secret and ID, maybe to environment variable. In that case, so the approach is basically very similar. And here we're going to create a session object. Except that here, instead of providing the profile name, we'll have to provide the access ID and the access secret. So here we can specify the parameter name, AWS access key, and we'll provide the access key, and as well as the AWS secret access. So simply copy paste the secret here. And we can also provide the region. So using the region parameter, and we can specify where the service is located, under which server basically. So let's say my S3 bucket is in the US East 2 region. So that's how you're going to create the session object. And from there, the rest is basically the same. You'll basically use the client method, provide the service that you want to use, then run the method. So here if I run the method, and let's see, I forgot, this should be AWS access key ID. And it should be access key. Oh, and it should be region name. So I'm trying to memorize the parameter, but apparently it's not working very nicely. But there, so once I fix all the parameter names, and that should list all my buckets from the response. Alright, so this is going to be everything I'm going to share in this video, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this video a like and click on the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.